If I hold up, I don't know if you can see, I'm not here to promote the books, but I think we had an international competition for a new building, and if you see the woodcut on the right, on my right, that was on the cover of the entry by the winning design team. It was an anonymous competition, and it shows justice under a tree. The theme of transparency, participation, openness. And if you look at the picture on my left, that is the foyer of the court. It's like a clearing in a forest. And it's after you've been through the prisons, you've seen the ghastly reminders of inhumanity, you come to this place. It's not a very literal story. It's an emotional journey. And the very light and openness and beauty and whimsy even of the court foyer, the Justice Under a Tree, is telling a lovely human fable, if you like, relating a fable that is very strong emotionally, and we find very conducive to the work we do sitting as judges in the interior of the courtroom. My little presentation shortly will soon be followed by a little video. A full tour of the court is contained in the back of one of these books, which people who want to follow up can do that. The video just gives a little ensemble, a sort of aperitif to what it is, but you'll see the contrast between the harshness of the past and the positivity and hope that comes from the future use and the imaginative design and the, I would say, the imaginative conceptualization of the place. Now, the relevance to Guantanamo, the contrasts, of course, are very strong. And I'm referring not only to the fact that Guantanamo is still an ongoing, the way we used to put in the struggle days, site of struggle. And I believe there are people in this room who are involved, engaged in a very direct way, Center for Constitutional Rights and others, in terms of trying to define what rights can be salvaged from the, in the situation, which is still a pretty dire situation at the moment. So we had a derelict prison. We were looking for a site for our new Constitutional Court building, and in that sense the situation is very different. We discovered the site, which was a place of awful memory in search of a hopeful future, and we were a brand new court in search of a place where we could be. And at first glance, the worst place you could imagine for a court standing for fundamental rights, for democracy, for hope, would be in the heart of a prison, at first glance. You want something bright and sunny and optimistic and lovely, with lots of trees around and running water and the stars shining all the time at night. That's at first sight. At second sight, you realize this is precisely why you need a constitutional court, and how you relate and connect with the past, but in an honest way, and you face up to the past, and you acknowledge the past, and you draw on the energy of the past, but not to say we are trapped there, we are stuck there, that we're fighting those battles of the past again in a new guise over the new, but in that transformatory way. And all I can tell you is it works. It's very powerful in practice. People who visit there feel it. The lawyers appearing before us in the court feel a certain sense of gravitas and emotion and an awareness of history. And those of us sitting up on the bench realize why we need fundamental rights. It's not just these are beautiful ideas that humanity has discovered. It's our people, it's us. Some of the judges, a number of us have been in prison ourselves. And we've also belonged to organizations, and our own organizations have ill-treated other people, and we've been made aware of the importance of fundamental rights. we had the advantage as well of the former oppressed people who'd been locked up in the prison were now largely leading government. And so the project of putting the court there was a government-led project. It wasn't NGOs and progressive people and so on saying, wouldn't it be a fantastic idea? We as judges were given a large say in deciding where our home would be. And then we had the backup of government, getting funding and the process, all these things turned out to be quite complicated. But we didn't have what would obviously be an enormous problem in relation to Guantanamo, the conflicts over the role of Guantanamo, the way it's entered into political debates in this country, promises that are made, promises that are being challenged in all sorts of ways. We didn't have that. We just had this prison that couldn't speak for itself except through its old stones and buildings that were deteriorating. And we had a court that was unanimous in terms of the kind of building we wanted, the backup of government, a lot of enthusiasm behind the whole project. But I think what is transferable is the importance of imagination and vision. And I think a conference like this, to the extent that it's already mapping out, traveling in some of the foothills, without trying to come up with, and it can't come up with a definitive answer as to the future, is just encouraging people to imagine that site fulfilling a different role and function to the one that it has. And I'll conclude with this. My interest, like anybody, I follow the debates in this country about Guantanamo. I follow with special interest the role of the US Supreme Court, and it's no secret, I've spoken openly about my admiration for the position of the majority of judges there in important moments in this country of standing up for certain basic fundamental constitutional rights in a very narrow range, but not capitulating to the themes of saying it's war, anything goes. So some of the judges happen to be personal friends of mine. Even some of the judges on the minority happen to be personal friends of mine. I'm interested in that, but I wouldn't come and speak publicly about what are really your debates. I don't think it's somehow appropriate for a judge from another country to come here and suggest you should do this, that, and the other. But I do have, as a South African, as somebody involved in what's really an international human rights movement, a very direct interest in Guantanamo Bay. It's not just an American issue. It's a very strong American issue. It's a world issue. And the saddest aspect, perhaps, of Guantanamo Bay is long after its present function has been hopefully forgotten, it will be held up by authoritarian rulers and dictators and anti-human rights people throughout the world as a justification for ill treatment, for holding people outside the realm of law, outside the realm of judicial intervention and control. And instead of America being seen as a country that had the first entrenched Bill of Rights, that had a powerful Supreme Court standing for fundamental rights, that is associated in many ways with the achievement of democracy, the great speeches of Lincoln, the Brown Board of Education case, and other landmarks like that, the United States of America, through Guantanamo, becomes associated with justifying a form of organized lawlessness in the name of the country, not as some people secretly doing it clandestinely, without the knowledge of those in office, but as official justified policy. And that gives a sense of entitlement, of justification, of legitimacy to people all over the world doing awful things. So if it is possible for the American people, through the channels that you would know best, to find a way of transforming what has become an international symbol of outlawing, rendering beyond the ordinary controls of law of people, neither controlled by the principles of the laws of war internationally, nor the domestic principles of fundamental rights in terms of the Constitution, in a kind of a limbo, turning that around into a place that becomes a symbol of conflict resolution, a symbol of attempting to overcome intractable problems in peaceful ways, becomes a symbol of reconciliation and a symbol of humanity. That would be a marvelous lesson, something wonderful for the world, something that can be a new Statue of Liberty, if you like, a new Statue of Liberty that can give hope to everybody in the world and take away the sense of succor, the sense of support that the tyrants throughout the world get from saying, why point a finger at us? Look what the Americans did. Now you're simply blaming us, the greatest power in the world. They did it. They have a fantastic constitution. They did it. Why point a finger at us? And if the story then is they did it, they reflected on it, and they converted it now into a place that stands for transformation, for change, for hope, for lawfulness, for respect for human beings, that would be a marvelous achievement.